Okay, welcome back to another exciting grammar video. Now we are going to, last time we were looking at articles, and now we're going to be looking at pronouns. Pronouns are actually pretty cool, and sometimes they're a little difficult to learn how to use properly. So I hope you enjoy something, or learn something, and enjoy knowing how to use them properly when we're done. All right. So to start with, we're going to be looking at two types of pronouns. We're going to be looking at the personal pronoun and the reflexive pronoun. And don't let these terms confuse you. We're going to explain exactly what they are coming up. All right. So the first thing you know is that a pronoun, the typical definition of a pronoun is that it can replace one or more than one noun in a sentence. All right. So a pronoun can replace one or more than one noun in a sentence. So a couple of examples, then we're going to expand that definition because that's the typical definition, but it's not completely true. And we're going to get to that in a second. So in the following sentence, Tom and Harry are the nouns, are good friends of mine. So we can replace Tom and Harry with they. They are good friends of mine. So that's where you can see that the personal pronoun they can replace one or more nouns. Okay? Now, it says, however, and I'm just going to read this to you because it's important. It says, however, if we were to take the definition literally, we would have a problem. For example, consider the following sentence. A tall young woman in the front row raised her hand. If we only replace the noun with a pronoun, and woman is the pronoun, so the pronoun would be she, it would look like this. A tall young she in the front row raised her hand. Obviously, that doesn't make sense. So we're going to revise our definition of what a pronoun is, and what we're going to revise it to. Well, okay, we're going to rephrase it, and it's going to look like this, right here. Okay. It says a third-person pronoun is a word that replaces one or more than one noun and all the modifiers of that noun. Okay, so a modifier is something that describes a noun. So we're going to go back and take a look at that. When we replace the she raised her hand, we replace the woman, that's the noun, and then we also replaced all the modifiers. Tall, young, a tall, young. Those are all modifiers of the noun. And then this is also a modifier in the front row because that tells where. It's a prepositional modifier, but it still modifies the noun. And so all these modifiers, the ones that come before the noun called pre-noun modifiers, and the one that comes after the noun called post-noun modifiers. And we're going to get to those definitions. Pre-noun modifier. Modifier is something that changes or helps clarify the noun, or the post-noun modifier. And we're going to get to those more in the next section. But pre-noun modifier is the descriptions that come before the noun. The post-noun modifier is the description of the noun that comes after the noun. Okay? So all those things, all the noun right here and all the modifiers are replaced by the third person pronoun. She raised her hand. So that's our new definition. Our new definition is, and I'll say it again so we can understand what it is. Our new definition is a third person pronoun is a word that replaces one or more nouns and all the noun's modifiers. All right? So that's what we're going to be looking at as we go through this section. And you can read. I encourage you to read this because I'm only pulling out the most important things for you. But once again, you're responsible to read this on your own. But let's take a look at some of these things. It says, the noun in the noun phrase determines which third person pronoun to use. We can see in the following example. So we need to find, in this noun phrase, a tall young man. Oh, man is used, so I know that the pronoun is he. Now let's see what he replaces. Well, he obviously replaces man, okay? But it also is going to replace all the modifiers. A, tall, young, all describe man. In the front row, tells where the man is. It also modifies the noun. All those things are replaced with he. All right? So, a tall young man in the front row raised his hand. He raised his hand. All right? Now let's take a look at the next one. Two men in the back row both raised their hands at the same time. Well, two men, so this determines, the men determines the pronoun, and anytime we have more than one of something, we're going to say that they, let's see what they replaces. Well, it replaces two in the back row, modifies where the men are. Okay, and what did they do? They both raised their hands at the same time. They both raised their hands at the same time. Okay, so that's kind of where we're going to wrap this little section up, but let's take a look at a couple more. It says here's the complete list of third-person pronouns that can replace noun phrases. Okay, and this is a complete list of third-person pronouns. If the subject of the sentence, which is at the beginning of the sentence, okay, he, she, or it, or they. Very easy. The object, now we haven't gotten into objects, but basically the object just comes at the end of the sentence, and it's what the verb acts on, okay? For example, I looked at her. Okay? Her, I is the subject. You looked at who? You looked at her. Her is the object that you're looking at. Okay? So that's the difference between object and subject, and we're going to get into that more later. But I think you understand the object comes at the end of the sentence after the verb, something that the verb acts on, and then the subject comes at the beginning of the subject, the thing that does the acting, or the thing that does the action of the sentence. All right. So the object of the pronouns is him, her, it, and them. All right. And these are plural, obviously. They and them are plural, and all these are singular. All right. So those are your pronouns, and I don't think it's overly difficult. So we're going to take a look at, we're going to go on and take a look at some other stuff here. Okay, here it says, here are some examples of all of the third-person pronouns replacing noun phrases. In these examples, the noun is in italics and the entire noun phrase is underlined. And I'm not going to go through these with you, but I want you to read these, and it gives examples of each noun phrase, of how each of these is used. Okay, all the objects, and then all the subjects, and how they're used to replace noun phrases. All right, so just a couple things about objects first before we move on, because we haven't really covered that. I want you to know that you can see that I is the subject. I signaled. Who did you signal? Boom, the object. The waiter who had taken our order. I signaled him. Okay, so that's the difference between the object and you can see the whole noun phrase there, but it works the same way. The object pronoun replaces the whole noun phrase that is being acted on. Okay. Let's move on, and you can take a look at those. And then in this one, this is what you're going to do with these. It says, write the appropriate third-person pronoun above the underlined noun phrase. Use he, she, or him or her for persons whose gender is not specified. Okay, so the taxi cab driver. The taxi cab driver can either be girls or boys, right? Well, in that sense, we can't say he because we don't know if it's a he. So you have to say he/she. So we know it's either or. He or she had a GPS system in the cab. All right. You can't say they, because they would refer to there's more than one taxi cab driver, and that would look pretty silly driving down the street with two people in the driver's seat, right? So we can't use they. We have to use he or she, even though it sounds a little awkward. So anytime there's a place where we don't know the gender of the person, like the taxi cab driver, we have to say he or she, all right? The Mississippi River system drains the central United States. So this is the noun phrase. Obviously, the noun is Mississippi River. So I would say it. It drains the central United States. Okay? So, I mean, that's pretty much all we're doing here. So, I don't think it's, if you have questions, obviously come before school or after school, and I will help you out. You have all these different little sentences to do. And, you know, I don't mind if you just scratch out on your assignment. I don't mind if you just scratch out the noun phrase and put the noun phrase off to the side. I think that's how we'll do it. Or put the noun phrase above it, or put the noun phrase in front of it, because you're using Microsoft Word or something. Or I'm sorry, you're using Pages. That's okay. And so if you have questions, come before class and I'll answer them, and I'll see you in the next video.